Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself. And today, this one is a bit of a special one. This is a little bit of a Hogie Christmas special. Yeah, so I thought, well, why not? Yeah, let's do something a little bit different. Now, as you know, I talk a lot about a certain Duc L'Orange. We all know who he is, yeah. And something just told me, let me just drink a bit of water. This is just plain water for this one. Something just told me, do you know what? Basically, you got to follow your intuition sometimes. And something, I just couldn't be at peace. And I thought, I need to look at Ivanka Trump's charts. Yeah, Ivanka Trump. I just had this feeling, and I've mentioned before, there's something interesting going on. So I thought, let me just get up her chart and have a look and compare her chart to her father's chart, yeah, to see what things may be in common or not, and all this kind of stuff. Because there is something that happens really quite a lot with families, is that we will have, and also as well, people that are close to us in general, could be spouses, family members, good friends, and there will be planets either conjunct or in similar signs or whatever. You'll see there's some compatibility. So I thought, let's do this for a Christmas special. Yeah, so I took a look at Ivanka Trump's chart. And I wasn't expecting too much actually, but I just thought, let me just have a look. Oh my goodness. There was a lot more there than I thought. And I mean a lot. A lot more there than I thought. So first off, let's start. Let's just start with the basics. So we know, who is Ivanka. Ivanka, of course, is the beloved daughter of Donald Trump, and she's clearly the favorite. By all accounts, she is the favorite. But when we actually look at the chart, we can actually understand why, because there is a lot that she has in common with Pops. So, all right, let's begin. What you'll see here, I've got this extra chart here as well, and this is called the D9, the Navamsha chart. Now, anyone who's had a consultation with me knows that I read both charts. So this is the main chart here. This is Ivanka Trump's main chart. Underneath, we've got Daddy's charts, yeah? And then underneath that, as usual, we've got the USA charts, yeah? So those who watch my videos, you're becoming familiar with these charts now, but every once in a while I like to kind of get up a new one. And essentially, my clients will know this, but this is just a phenomenon well known in Vedic astrology. But let me explain it. This chart here is called the D1, the Rashi chart. This shows where the planets actually are at the time of a person's birth, sidereally. Remember, I do sidereal astrology. And this is what you could call the tree of life, yeah, the D1, the tree of life. The D9 is known as the chart of marriage, yeah, but not all of us get married though, of course, so it's very much known as the Dharma chart, but it does also speak about spouses and loved ones, but also as well the overall theme in life, and it is known as the fruit of the tree, yeah, so this is the tree, and this is the fruit of the tree. Now, it can be quite funny, actually, in times, because it can be like this. Sometimes there can be a beautiful tree with rubbish fruit, yeah? Just all shriveled and bitter and, whatnot. And then you can have a really stunted tree that's not that much to look at, which produces exquisite fruit, yeah? Now, what's interesting here is and again, my clients will know this, what I really believe, and what has just proven true time and time again, the D1 chart is very much about the first 36 years of life. Yeah, the first 36 years of life. Let me just have a little slurp. First 36 years of life, and then really from 36, 37, 38, 39, but 40 especially, this chart kicks in. So Ivanka Trump, she was born on the 30th of October 1981. Yeah, 1981. And what is we don't actually have a birth time for Ivanka Trump. We don't have a birth time. But that needn't stop anything really, because one, we can always read from what is called Chandra Lagna, which means the moon. Yeah, you can read from the moon. So as long as the moon is not too close to either end of the house, if it's in the middle of the house, like it is very much here with Ivanka, you can kind of rely that moon will stay in that same sign, because the moon spends about 2.5 days in each sign, but it spends 1 day in each nakshatra, each lunar mansion. So I'm pretty confident that on the day that she was born, the moon was here in Scorpio. Yeah, very similar to Pups. Yeah, but he is in a different part of Scorpio, but I'll explain. So there's that. So that's called Chandra Lagna, because the moon is about the mind, how we actually feel about things, just how we feel about stuff, and how we instinctively respond to things. So there's so much that you can actually tell about by a person by where that moon is, and her moon is in a very interesting place in Scorpio. So there's that. But if all else fails, then one of the things that you can do, just slurp a bit more. One of the things that you can do is that you can take the birth time being as midday. Yeah, midday. Now, the reason why that can work, especially for Ivanka, is because when you put the birth time at midday, depending on the time of year, the sun is going to be in a high house. It's going to be in either the, 9th, 10th, or 11th house. Yeah, and it makes the sun powerful. But the sun represents the divine masculine. It represents the king. But it also represents the divine spark that our soul has come on earth and where we're building our kingdom. But not only that, the sun represents the father. So what I've done is I've put the birth time for Ivanka at midday. Why? Because her father is very powerful. We know Trump is a very powerful man. Well, not for much longer, but depending on which side of the fence you sit on. But obviously he's not going to be president for much time longer. But it shows that one has a very influential father. Yeah. So when I put in that time of midday, because she was born in New York, it puts the sun in the 11th house. Yeah. Now the 11th house is the house of rubbing shoulders. It is the house of it's a house of powerful friends and influence. It is relative to the 11th sign, Aquarius, which is known as other people's children. So it means people of the world. It's also a very international house. Deals a lot with people from abroad or people that are very influential in some kind of way. So we see already, this is already starting to ring quite accurate. Now, it could turn out that she was born at 4 a.m. in the morning, whatever. But the point is when we look at this combination here, she has got in Libra. So these signs are definitely in Libra because, the sun moves about 1 degree a day. Yeah, so it stays in the sign for a month. So we can be very confident that on this day, her sun was in this position. Now, it's in the sign of Libra, which is a masculine sign. Yeah, and it's the sign of ideas and reason and exchanging information, etc. But what we see here, this is a remarkable combination because Ivanka has got Pluto, the planet of rebirth. It's also the planet of death and destruction, dark night of the soul, but it deals a lot with power. Yeah, power. Just remember that, power. And it is conjunct Jupiter, the guru, yeah, which is all about philosophy, ideas, higher learnings, teachings, etc. And then it's also conjunct the sun, which I've already said is the kingdom, the divine masculine, but also the father. what is really fascinating is that in a woman's chart, Jupiter represents her husband. Yeah? Or just the desired man in her life, how he actually shows up. So what we see here, we see there is a remarkable dynamic between, so this Jupiter here can also represent Jared Kushner, can represent the husband, yeah? And it is at 0043 degrees, so it's only just in the 11th house. You could say it's on the border between the 10th house and the 11th house. But you've got, but here, Pluto, so this is at 0043 degrees. And Pluto is at 0111 degrees. They're exactly conjunct. So this is very interesting. What this says straight off the bat, quite literally, it means that Jared Kushner, Ivanka's husband, and the son, Donald Trump, her father, are the two most powerful influencers on her life, yeah? Because the sun also represents the soul, and with Pluto here, it shows intense transformation, but it's also about power. And let me just say as well, this video is only for entertainment purposes only, and this is me speculating via the use of astrology about things. Of course, like I said, I don't know Ivanka's, no one knows, apart from her family, Ivanka's birth time. But this is speculation. But looking at these positions here, so this has got a lot to do with power and a person that will be powerful. Because whenever you have the sun with Pluto, this shows that that person will have power and influence in some kind of way. Now, it's not very close to the sun, because if Pluto's at 1 degrees 11 minutes, the sun here is at 13 degrees 35 minutes. So it's still quite a wide-ish orb, still quite close, but they are considered conjunct. But what this really shows is that the real power and the real influence and that kind of karmic, relationship is really with her husband. Yeah, so this is someone who is immensely important in her life and will also be dealing with power himself. But what this suggests is that the husband is getting the power from her, yeah, because it's coming up to the Pluto, it's coming up, and of course this is her chart, and this is her 11th house. So of course Ivanka's going to have a powerful 11th house, hasn't she? She's an heiress to a multi-million-pound fortune, well, whatever's left of that fortune. I'm sure Deutsche Bank is going to have a few words about that. But either way, she's a heiress, yeah? And of course, in her life, she would have met all sorts of powerful and influential people, because 11th house can do a lot to do with government as well, but it's essentially powerful people, guilds, groups, associations. It also represents the eldest sibling as well. So we can see for Ivanka, of course, she's got some elder siblings who are also involved in power. So there's a lot here to do. And the 11th house is also known as the house of desires and fulfillment and great gains. Because she's hardly poor, is she? Especially since what? Since Pops came into power, you know, her coffers have been doing really quite well. But anyway, that's another story. But you know, it's all across the news, so that's not scandalous to say. So we see that. So it means that at least in the first part of her life, up until about the age of 36, 37, Ivanka was building her kingdom internationally. Yeah, this has got a lot to do with international things. Remember as well those patents with China, and you know, running her own business and doing a bit of modeling and, you know, traveling around. So there's that. So that's very interesting. And then we'll look at the second half of life in a minute. But one of the things, before I talk about the 12th house, which is something remarkable. Let's go to Ivanka's first house. So the first house is what? The body. Yeah, it represents you as well, your personality, how you come across, what the first impressions are. This is for people that don't actually know you. When they just look at you from afar, when they first meet you, this is the impression that they get. Now, what's interesting here is that Ivanka has got a Sagittarius ascendant, which is the same as the USA chart. And we'll talk about her connections with the USA chart in a minute, but they are remarkable, remarkable. But one thing I want to mention as well before we talk about the first house, just like Daddy, Ivanka has a Kala Sarpa yoga, a time serpent yoga. Look, you see, look, all of the planets are here on one side. That means one lives a very fated life of great ups and downs. Yeah, so we know about the ups, so maybe some of the downs are coming. We'll just have to see. But either way, what happens is, even after these downs, that person can tend to rise up to a higher position. This is just part of what Time Serpent Yoga is about. And we are about, as I've said before, on the 1st of January in my earlier videos, we're about to go in Time Serpent Yoga again. Because with the inauguration chart, which I'll get, all of the planets are going to be this side of the Kala Sarpa Yoga. So this is going to be really quite interesting for Ivanka, because she's going to be facing a lot of oppositions right now. Particularly as the planets move as well, as things progress, she's going to be having a lot of oppositions in her chart in the next 18 months, or as the months progress, and next couple of years, she's going to have lots of oppositions, because the planets keep moving, and they're gonna trigger parts of her chart. So there's a lot of change. So if we look here at the first house, so she's a Sagittarius, and what's Sagittarius? It's all about seeking the truth, etc., all that kind of stuff. And her ascendant is in the nakshatra of Purva Ashada, which means the earlier victory. Yeah, so it does deal a lot actually with like truth and power and influence. Has got a lot to do with politics as well. But it also shows a person that gets a lot of aptitude and can achieve quite a lot of success when they're young. Yeah, so that's quite interesting. But the biggest giveaway here, and this is why I think I've got the time right, or at least it's just very close within that time, is that we see here what? Planet Venus in the first house. Now, what is Venus? Venus is the planet of luxuries. Venus is the planet of beauty. Venus is the planet of, essentially the good life, good wine, good food, etc., etc. So any planet that's in the first house is going to have quite a big impact on the physicality and how we actually look. Planets in the first and the second house can do that. But particularly when Venus is in the first house, it produces a person that has the potential to be very beautiful. Now, many people can call, and have probably called, Ivanka Trump many things. I'm sure she's been called many things in her life, particularly as well with this combination here. But one thing you can't call Ivanka is a dog's dinner. Yeah. If there's one thing that we can agree on, is that yes, she's very beautiful, and she's got a great bone structure, and Venus can give that here. Yeah, Venus, particularly when it's in the first house, will give physical beauty. Yeah, and so yes, we can argue that's that is accurate. Doesn't mean that person has that everything else about them is beautiful, but they will have physical charm. And she will also be charming. Yeah, Venus is the ruler of what? Libra and Taurus. Libra, if we look here, Libra here is in her 11th house, governing her 11th house, and it's also governing her 6th house. And what that means is, it means there's like part of that day job is meeting people. Part of her routine is meeting people from all over, from pretty much everywhere. And what it does is, when a person's got Venus in the first house, it gives them a lot of charm and diplomacy. Yeah, so she's got a very soft exterior. Also as well, Jupiter and Venus are basically performing what is called a parivartana. They are swapping signs. Venus is in Sagittarius and Jupiter is in Libra. Now, normally this would be quite a difficult place for Jupiter to be, and technically it is in an enemy sign, but because it's swapping with Venus, they are behaving as if they're in their own sign. So what this does is it gives a person, particularly it gives a person a lot of cultural aptitude. Yeah, tremendous gift of the gab. She really is a charmer, quite literally a charmer. Also as well, if we look here in the 10th house, Ivanka has got something which is called she's got a Bhadrapada yoga. Yeah, so basically, or Bhadra yoga, and it's when you've got Mercury, planet Mercury, in its own sign, and it's in one of the angular houses. The angular houses are 1, 4, 10, and 7. Not in the order, but anyway, if we look here, now this again, this is why I think she was born around midday, because this Mercury is in its own sign and it's in the 10th house of career with Saturn. So that, if this time is correct, that means that she has got an extremely capable Mercury. This gives a person a lot of intelligence, So none of some really rather unfair things that people say about people who have blonde hair, none of those things apply to Ivanka. Definitely not. She is very intelligent. She is very, very clever. Very clever. However, there is a lot of pressure. Yeah, she feels a lot of pressure in her career, especially now, of course, with what's going on. Because look, we have here what? Saturn, the sign of pressure. Now, Saturn does do well in the 10th house, but it does create a lot of pressure in that 10th house. There can be a lot of expectation. But Saturn is the sign of government, the planet of government. Yeah, the planet of government. So here, and also as well, Saturn does very well in the sign of Virgo because it belongs to his friend Mercury. However, Saturn puts pressure even on his friends. But nonetheless, this shows that there's this great... Mercury is the planet of communication. Yeah, Mercury is known as what? The advisor. Isn't that interesting? She's got this kind of pretty, like basically an exalted advisor in association, very close association with Saturn, the planet of government. She literally is a government advisor. And she's also got Ceres here as well, which is to do with children as well. So isn't it interesting? She's obviously her father's daughter, working for him as an advisor in the government. And also as well, there is this element as well where, you know, maybe even some of her children might follow in her footsteps. But, you know, that's far too off in the distance. So we see here, there's a great combination here. If we also look as well, we need to see where her Mars is. Now, her Mars is in the 9th house. The 9th house. So the 4th house represents real estate and the emotions and stuff like that. But it's also known as the house of the mother. Guess what the 9th house is? It's known as the house of the father in Vedic astrology. And there she has got Mars, planet Mars. And what does that mean? Mars is what? Energy, war, conflict, passion. Yeah, going out there, moving and shaking, getting things done. The 9th house is also the house of philosophy as well, and travels and all that such. So we see that, of course, she's traveled a lot. She would have traveled the world pretty much. But also as well, who can we think of that is very Martian, that could be relevant to the house of the father in Ivanka's chart? Guess what? Surprise, surprise, Donald Trump. And then if we look here, her Mars falls right on top of Donald Trump's Mars in the 1st house. In fact, you know, actually the degree is a little bit wider, but the point is this is a conjunction. And it's within, what's that? It's sort of like within sort of like 8 degrees. Anyway, Trump has his Mars in his 1st house, as I've said. And he is a Leo ascendant. Ivanka's Mars is also in Leo, and it's in Marga. Marga is what? Marga is the symbol for Marga is the Palatine, the throne, and it's where one is given some kind of duty or advantage to by one's ancestors, but ultimately it means continuing the work of one's ancestors. So if we think, for example, with Donald Trump, he obviously got quite a lot of money from what? His father, yeah, Marga, getting some kind of benefit or some kind of legacy of the ancestors. Ivanka has the same position. So what? She's getting some kind of benefit from who? Her father. You can't make this up. Honestly, it's remarkable. So what this also means is that there is this expectation somewhere in the family, not in public, that maybe Ivanka will carry on in her father's footsteps. Because there's something very spooky about Ivanka's chart, which is that she has a strong, very strong match with the USA charts. And we all know what Trump has said, yeah? So if we think of career, pressure in terms of career, and then if we see where Saturn is looking by his third aspect, he's looking at her moon. The moon is the mind, yeah? The moon is the mind. So there is some pressure in terms of aspect, in terms of her career, in terms of continuing a legacy of some kind, continuing the legacy of her father. That would be what? Becoming president. Trump wants his daughter to become president. And I would argue as well, so does her husband, yeah? Because he's connected with the planet of power. Now, whether or not she takes this up, of course, depends on her. And then we'll talk about the Navamsha chart. But isn't that fascinating? And also as well, this might spook people out. I hope it doesn't spook people out too much. But remember what I said about the nodes of the moon and how they set fate and destiny. So look, this is Ivanka's chart with Rahu in the 8th house in the sign of Cancer. Yeah? And Rahu represents the destiny point. Whenever a person's chart connects in a point of destiny with their nation's chart and they're involved in politics, there's a strong chance they can become a leader. So look, keep your eyes focused here, and I'm going to lift to the USA chart. Whoop! Do you see what's similar? Her nodes of the moon fall in the same place as the USA chart. Oh my goodness. And not only that, her Rahu is conjunct the Mercury of the chart, of the USA chart, and her Rahu is at 2 degrees and 5 minutes, and the Mercury in the USA chart is at 3 degrees 25 minutes. She has an exact conjunction. That is remarkable. But remember as well, I said this Mercury is a bit like the Dark Prince in the USA chart, and it's got a lot to do with media, yeah? So she has conjunct Rahu with Rahu and exact conjunction with the Mercury in the USA chart. And on top of that, her Ketu, south node of the moon, here, is conjunct Pluto, planet of power, in the 2nd house of the USA chart. Oh my goodness. Yeah, couldn't make it up. And then when we look at all this drishti here, all of this planetary sites, do you see how many planets are looking at her 4th house? Now, the 4th house deals with real estate, but it also deals with homeland. Yeah, homeland. So there's that element too. And then we also need to look at her 12th house. Now, this is the most remarkable bit. Honestly, this will make you wet the bed. Because not only is her moon conjunct her father's, at a different degree, her moon is at 14 degrees 52 minutes, and it should put that in that Anuradha Nakshatra. Let me just make sure. Yes, Anuradha, Pada 4, so just before. But even more uncanny, because remember the moon is the mind, even more uncanny, her Neptune, planet of spirituality, is exactly conjunct her father's moon. Ivanka, with this combination here, she's got planet Uranus Moon and Neptune together in the 12th house. You know what that is a hallmark of? That is the hallmark of a psychic. And not only that, someone who is a magician. Not only that, someone who knows astrology. Now, we may never find this out because this is happening where? In her 12th house, which is the house of secrets. Yeah? But let me tell you something. I would bet good money on it that Ivanka is psychic. Yeah. Honestly, that is a telltale giveaway combination. And also as well, it's in the sign of Scorpio, which is the sign of digging. And also as well, her Neptune is also conjunct the new sign Ophiuchus, which of course is what? The serpent priest. She's a priestess. If we were on Diane's tarot, we'd be talking about the priestess tarot card. So this means Ivanka knows a tremendous amount about her father's what? Secrets. The 12th house is foreign lands. Yeah, foreign lands. Dealings abroad. What's all the rumbling about now? Some of the stuff that she did, what? Abroad. Yeah, people are beginning to investigate it. Planet Uranus is also the planet of invention. It deals with astrology, but it's about rebellion. It's about invention. It's about having the skill as well to have insights and see things into the future. What's one of the things that they were talking about? Ivanka's patents in China and other stuff. So she's a bit of an inventor as well. We don't know what those inventions are because, of course, they've been kept what? Secret, because they're in the 12th house. But she has that ability. So it means that she can get these psychic inflashes, these impulses of what can happen. Now, of course, this is a very useful skill to have, and it can keep you out of trouble, can't it? For a while. Anyway, but I just thought I had to kind of say that because that is remarkable. She does have this kind of tremendous kind of psychic ability. However, all is not well in Denmark. All is not well. Because when we look here, the conjunction, or I say not well, but there's movement. The grand conjunction between Saturn and Jupiter is happening in Ivanka's second house, yeah? Second house in her main chart. And Saturn is looking at her 4th house, which deals with home, yeah? So there's some kind of pressure on the home, yeah? Wherever Saturn looks, he puts a bit of pressure there. There's some kind of pressure on her finances, yeah? Because Saturn is in the second house of finances. Saturn is also looking at her 8th house, which is the house of death, sex, and rock and roll, as I call it. But it's also the house of transformation. And it's also where her nodes are, and which is very powerful. Jupiter is also looking at her 11th house, which is international things. Yeah? International things, like I said, rubbing shoulders, foreign people as well, people that are abroad. We keep joining up the dots. Where's Jupiter looking? Jupiter is looking at her 6th house, which means a changing routines. Yeah? Routines, how we go about things, everyday stuff. But also as well, as we know, it's also the house of litigation. And the moon is also looking at the 6th house. But if you look here, with Donald Trump's chart, when you overlay his career house, Uranus, and Rahu and Sun in the house of career, falls into Ivanka's 6th house, which is the house of work. She works for her father. I mean, you can't make it up. You can't make it up. So this, I'm more and more sure that this time is probably accurate. But also as well, it shows there's some kind of expansion in this area. So sometimes Jupiter can expand things we don't want. He can expand our problems. So when we look at it in this context, there could be some legal kind of stuff coming her way, but we have to see. Jupiter, like I said, is also looking at the 8th house, but it's also looking at the 10th house of career. So there's some kind of career expansion, some kind of career change, yeah, happening here. And so when I look at this all together, it's almost, my instinct is to say, if we think about that pressure on the 4th house, pressure on money, activation and pressure on networks, yeah. Not only could it be that these things could be investigated or explored as part of a law case or something like that, but it could also mean maybe she's going to move. She might move somewhere because look, she's got these planets looking at her house of transformation, which can also mean sudden shocks and surprises. Yeah, there could be something shocking that comes out that could cause Ivanka to move, or to at least try and flee potentially. And she might be worried about this stuff coming out, and she's thinking a lot about her money and her assets, yeah, because the grand conjunction is happening here. And it's also conjunct Ketu, which I nicknamed Snip Snip, because he's also associated with as the planet of loss, the Moksha Karka. Spiritualization via loss, and the conjunction, the grand conjunction is happening here, and also as well Pluto, planet of rebirth, and also as well the dark night of the soul is about to come into her house, her second house, like with the USA charts, on the 1st of January. Yeah, that's not an easy combination. Not an easy combination at all. So there could be something that gets very triggered, and something of a karmic nature, because like I said before, all of the planets in the next, basically at the 1st of January, are all going to be one side of the nodes of the moon. So there's something very karmic that is about to happen. Very karmic. And she's already a very karmic person anyway, because in her chart, all the planets are on one side of the moon. So there's something to do with transformation, revelations, things being exposed, things coming out of the dark potentially, maybe even moving or fleeing or what have you. But this could also be a kind of rebirth as well. Or it's definitely some kind of big change in the life in some way. So we're going to hear some kind of news, significant news about Ivanka, yeah? And remember before, in Trump's charts, in the 6th house, in his 6th house, he's got what? Ceres, children, yeah? But it's also the house of enemies. So isn't this interesting? There is a child, or children, plural, in Trump's 6th house. And the 6th house is also a house of work. And then when we overlay Ivanka's chart over Trump's, we see that she does what? She works for her father. So there is some element where one of the children, it means, on one level, it means the children are involved in Trump's business and schemes. Of course, family business. But there's also this element of litigation. So there could be this thing where something turns and changes, where maybe one of the children might throw Donald Trump under the bus, or one of them may get thrown under the bus and, you know, put behind bars or something like that. It could be either or. But either way, when I look at her chart, there's this big change here. Now, on one level, now remember we read the Navamsha chart. When I look at this, you might be thinking, oh my God, what's he saying? Is he saying that she could run for president? On one level, yes, she actually could, because she's got so many connections with the USA charts. However, she's probably likely to have some kind of downfall before she could come back. She may even spend a bit of time in jail herself, but I don't quite see that. I don't quite see it. There might either be a pardon, or she'll do some kind of plea bargain or something, if it even goes that way. But we need to look at the Navamsha, the second half of life charts. Now this chart starts kicking in, like I said, 36, 37, 38, 39, and definitely by the time that we're 40. So Ivanka she should be 39, yeah? She would have just turned 39. So next year, she's going to be 40. Next year. So that means this chart is waking up. Now when I look at this chart here, now remember I said this is the fruit of the tree. So this is the main tree. So we know it's really quite a beautiful tree. However, the fruit is withered. Yeah? It's just, it's not so great. Yeah? It's not so great. Because so many of these planets here, like the sun and the moon, they're both in difficult signs for them. The moon is a difficult place for Scorpio, can be. but it's considered debilitated there. And the sun also as well is not so, doesn't feel so great being in Aquarius, because they belong to Saturn. So whenever you see the sun or the moon in the signs of Saturn, which are Capricorn and Aquarius, you know there's some kind of pressure there. But not only that as well, when we look here, this is Mars, Rahu and Saturn together. This is extremely malefic, and it's in the 9th house. Remember, what did I say? The 9th house is also the house of philosophies, but it's also the house of the father. So we can see the father is really up to something extremely malefic. Yeah? Because Saturn is a malefic, Rahu is a malefic, and Mars is a malefic. And Mars is debilitated in the sign of Cancer. It's not always a terrible thing. You can give great cunning, actually, great cunning. Mars is debilitated but delighted, but nonetheless, it's still a debilitation. But Rahu doesn't do so well in the sign of Cancer, water signs, and neither does Saturn. And Saturn is what? The planet of government. So her father in government is acting very weird, very odd. And as she gets older, this becomes more active. So as she's matured, she's noticed her father has what? Become more and more strange, more and more malefic. Saturn is government, but Rahu represents eccentrics. Yeah, people that are a bit, you know, just eccentric, larger than life characters. Mars, as I've said before, is energy. Yeah, so we can see here in the house of the father, in the house of the emotions, the mind. Because Cancer is the moon is the ruler of Cancer. So Cancer actually has got a lot to do with the mental faculties. So you've got 3 planets that are sort of out of sorts to an extent. Maybe not so much with that Mars, but it's still, it shows cunning. Yeah, some scheming. Yeah, unreliable. So there's an unreliable father here. But also as well, the 9th house is the house of politics. Yeah. So again, that can mean unreliable politics or just weird, eccentric politics. So this is very interesting. It's literally showing in her Navamsha chart. We also see the power struggles as well. But look, we see Jupiter and Pluto together again. So then this is what? The husband, yeah? But it's in the 12th house. The 12th house is also known, deals not only with not only foreign lands, far away lands, so there can be that element there. Jupiter is the husband, so the husband has connection with far away lands. We know that already. But the 12th house can also represent confinement and prisons. So it could be, she might be all right legally. She might just get away with it with the skin of her teeth. We'll have to see. But maybe the husband is not so lucky. Yeah, because that is a very powerful thing. Because here, Pluto, like I said, is the planet of power. But the 12th house is the house of what? Secrets, foreign lands, bed pleasures. So that this can show there's secrets that could emerge. Yeah, shows that the husband is involved in secrets in some way, and also as well it's in the enemy sign, because this belongs Libra belongs to Venus, which is one of the enemies of Jupiter. Yeah, because they have different philosophies. They're both gurus, but so we see here, you know, it's not looking so good. Although it does mean that the husband is very good in a legal way and very good with ideas and concepts and communicating those ideas, and can be extremely convincing because of what? He's got Pluto there. So look, he goes around making what? Contracts. Libra is also contracts. So this is contracts in foreign lands, but probably dodgy ones. Yeah. And if he gets caught, you know, that's not going to be good for him. However, Jupiter is also a planet of law, and Libra is the sign of law, so it means, and Pluto is power, so it means he's got very good lawyers, yeah, the best. Jared Kushner's got the best lawyers, and he's got lawyers that can transform his situation, so you never know. He may yet escape. But if we look here as well in Ivanka's Navamsha chart, we see the sun here again. Sun also represents the father, but look, it's in the 4th house. Homeland. Yeah, homeland. But there's a lot of pressure there. Yeah. And also as well, Aquarius is the sign of disconnection And it can also deal with eccentric. So again, we look back here, there's an eccentric father who's a bit disconnected from what? Reality, yeah? Without being, well, I mean, they're saying it all on the news now. We can just see what's going on. So when we put all that together, we see interesting things are happening here. But for here, Ivanka, the moon moves to the first house, the mind. So what this can show is that potentially as she gets older, the mind can feel a bit more unstable in a way. She has more worries. However, back in her main charts, her Uranus and Moon are both in the nakshatra of Anuradha, which means devotion. Yeah, so there's this very actually hidden spiritual side to her, but she's very devoted. So she's likely to be very devoted to her father and her husband and just whatever her causes are. But she may reach a point where she's going to have to make some kind of agonizing choice. Yeah. And she may even have to choose between the father or the husband. Yeah. Because look, husband, Jupiter, son, father, Pluto, power in the middle. And Pluto deals a lot with power struggles, yeah? So there might be some power struggles, some tug of war, where she's feeling kind of like pushed and pulled at the moment, especially as we can see here, Saturn is casting one of his aspects, yeah? His 10th aspect onto that there. So there's some pressure there. There might be things that she feels that she wants to defend her husband, but then she also wants to defend her father. That, you know, the dynamics at home must be quite strong because look, we see Saturn what? Looking at the 4th house, home. So there could be arguments at home or debates or what are we going to do? Are we going to stay in the USA or are we going to leave? Because Saturn is also a planet of separation. Wherever he puts his aspect, we can also feel the need to separate in that area. And he's looking at her 4th house of home. So it might be like, oh my God, we need to get out of here. But she might be like, I don't want to leave my father. You know, dad is not so great. Also as well, what's going on with Mar-a-Lago? The neighbors, don't want Trump there. So of course that's going to affect her as well. Saturn, look, looking at her 4th house. This must be the right time. Saturn is also looking at her 8th house of transformation along with Jupiter. So Jupiter is kind of giving a little bit of a blessing there. So she's going to have to transform something, but it might have to be a sudden transformation. Yeah, because Rahu can represent sudden things. So but also as well, Saturn is looking as well. So there's this pressure, intense pressure that she's feeling. You know, there's a lot going on there. So I don't want this video to be too long. So I've covered there. Yep, she could be moving abroad, but there could also be some kind of downfall as well. There could be some kind of fall from grace. However, she could come back. Yeah, she could come back. 4 years is a long time in politics. People are forgetful. 4 years is a long time out of politics. What I would say is this. If she can keep her behind out of jail, she can stand a chance if she goes through it. I would say even to the extent, even if she spent a bit of time in jail and came out, she could actually run. I don't know. Because look, I don't know the Constitution. Remember that I'm British, so I don't know. I don't know if you can run for president if you're a convicted felon or whatever. I think maybe possibly you can. But anyway, such are times. But basically, she can keep herself out of the fray, out of the most egregious things that Papa is up to, and somehow keep herself away enough. She might have to make some kind of sacrifice. If she did take more of an interest in politics and actually decide to run, she would actually stand a very good chance. She was certainly, you know, so looking at that, depending on what happens, of course, you know, with Joe Biden and stuff like that, but there could be a scenario in the future where we have 2 women running for president. Yeah, because remember I mentioned as well, Kamala Harris also has her nodes conjunct the moon. I mean, not the moon. Her north node is conjunct Mars in the USA chart. So they both have a connection with planets, with the USA. So there's this fated thing. So listen, I mean, this is projecting a long way ahead, and we have to see what happens. But there could be a time where you have two females running potentially for president. Ivanka on the Republican side, and of course Kamala Harris for the Democrats. Let's just see. But remember, this is conjecture. But I'm just looking at the chart. However, her second house of life chart, I'm not so sure that this chart really overall is quite weak. However, she does have Neptune in Pisces in the 5th. So she is very creative. She's very imaginative. And she has this ability to cast illusions as well, much like pups. But even better, I would say. Even better. But there is this, just to round up, there is this very spiritual side to Ivanka. Very spiritual side. It's very well hidden. But let me tell you, there's a tarot deck in some of those polished cabinets that she's got somewhere. I would put good money on it, and probably a crystal or two as well, and goodness knows what else. But this Neptune, Moon, Uranus is the hallmark of someone that is very intuitive, and she gets psychic hits like that. And I'm sure there's been many times when she said, Daddy, don't do this or that. And if he's listened to her, she's probably kept him out of trouble many times. But we know the wheels are coming off Doc L'Orange now, although there is more. So look, we've seen just the kind of, I said round up, and here I am. But look at the Kra. I said he will try and scheme maybe even some kind of military coup or whatever. Either way, he's working on some kind of coup. We've got all of this stuff going on. It's not done yet. Like I said, Biden is not president until the stroke of midday on January 20th. So Trump is trying to do everything he can. He's just scrabbling around like a lunatic to try and save the scenario. And we see that there are issues, because even if we look here at Ivanka's chart, pressure on the home. The neighbors don't want Trump. So there's all this stuff going on. But there's stuff she knows. She knows an awful lot. And we'll just have to see what happens. But if something happens, it will be quite sudden. Yeah? And it could really happen quite soon, because this grand conjunction has happened on top of her Ketu. But I think when Pluto comes into the second house and creeps ever closer to her Ketu, snip, snip, then I don't know. That is going to be it's going to be very transformative. Let's put it that way. For good or bad, it's going to be very kind of transformative. But we just have to see. So that's me done for now. It seems like bookings are possible again on my website, and I'll just double check again. But really, if you want to book, of course, visit my website, thearchetypalblueprint.com. But book for February. And if you see the little sign up saying such and such not available, just press the little X, and the booking form still shows up. So I would say go for it. And there. So for everyone, have a Merry Christmas. We know that these are testing times, so have a wonderful Christmas, the best Christmas you can have. I hope you've enjoyed this little Hogie's Christmas special, but I just had to get stuck in. There was way more in the chart than I thought. And let's see what pans out. Yeah, more Kra to come, as we know, and we'll just have to see. They might even have to declare Trump insane or whatever to get him out, or that becomes a device or something. But it's just reaching such a crescendo now. I'm just trying to think how on earth this is going to resolve itself. But anything could happen. Anyway, so Merry Christmas, everyone. Stay safe over the holidays, and I wish everyone the best.